Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the ACSOM Bulletin. It's Tuesday afternoon. It's the trio. It's a special day for the man to my left, right? I can't mind whether we look at this on your computer screen. It's Patrick's 21st birthday, so myself, Lawrence, everybody in the ACSOM team would like to wish Patrick a very happy 21st birthday. I didn't think you would have similar circumstances to me, mate, in February, but here we are once again. But, you know, I'm sure the victory at the weekend was a nice early present for you. So thanks to everybody for joining us on this Tuesday afternoon. We're going to be going in depth at the Cup final. We'll be looking forward to tomorrow night. Just with the way times work just now, we won't have a government decision. Obviously, ACSOM has no privy to any government decision making, even though some people probably out there would make you believe that. So we don't know what's going to happen with crowds, but we can kind of, you know, play a hypothetical situation of what would happen with the games that could possibly either be behind closed doors like Wales has went to, or whether it's just a case of pressing the big pause button until we get into January. But we'll kick off with the Cup final. All three of us were there. Lawrence, a good day out for all of us. Tell us about your Cup final day.
It is the age of Ange, isn't it? It's Ange's first trophy. So a couple of friends come up from London, up to my house. A couple of pints of Guinness and Chapman's to just set us up for it. Walk to Hampden. Saw Tosh McKinley outside, always a good omen. And inside for some Ange ball and Ange's first trophy. Absolutely outstanding. Then at home, watch the game again. So
yeah, why not? Why not watch the game again? I think it's always nice to watch Celtic goals on repeat, and that second goal and even the first goal was one that I think we'll be watching on repeat for a while. Patrick, me and you went over to the game together. We weren't sitting together for the game, but absolutely buzzing at the end of it. It was a good day out for all of us, and it's just so nice to see Silverware back at Celtic, but especially the first one under Ange Postecoglou, because I think when he walked in the door after whatever it was, 104 days or something, of Celtic not getting a manager, we all thought, you know, what next for this football club? We had appointed Ange at the point where he, you know, because he'd been over in Australia and Japan, and never actually had the proper coaching badges to be in European football, which was scoffed at by pundits that obviously like a large drink and a pie by the look of them. And we got our man in, and he's well ahead of schedule to what we could have all envisaged.
100%, and even by his own admission, he's still 12 months away from what he wants. So the age of Ange is going to get a lot better than this, if he's to be believed. No, it was an absolutely fantastic day, and you know, the performance might not have been top notch, but the reaction and the drive in the second half to win the game was absolutely exceptional. And I think we've all seen the clip from, I think it's Australian TV, that says, you know, your opponents at their weakest when they've just scored, try and hit them early. And the players have obviously taken that advice, and it's worked wonders for Kyogo in the 51st minute. But no, it was a fantastic game. Really enjoyed it, and hopefully the first of many.
Yeah, I think it will be the first of many. I'll go out on a limb and say that. I think it will be the first of many under Ange Postecoglou. I think this will only get better as we add more players to the squad and we see a development of his football style. I don't think everybody's at the point where they probably wants him to be, just due to, you know, lack of game time for some people, injury issues or whatever else. But everything is positive just now when you look at that Celtic squad. And Lawrence, on that, as Patrick says, you went home and watched the game after it, and your opponent is weakest, you know, after they've just scored. Hibs literally did go up in smoke, because the away end, home end, whatever you want to call it, unless you're a journalist and get picky about this, about teams having their own end. Hampden, they literally did go up in smoke, because when the Highbees scored, boom, went off a flare. There was this big cloud of smoke, and boom, Celtic went back up the other end of the park and scored.
yeah, it just sums up Ange, doesn't it? You know, you've said it. I mean, that age of Ange is the Australian kind of mini docu on him, isn't it? So, but that thing, that's McGowan, it says that, isn't it? You know, teams are at their weakest, the highest, but percentage chance of scoring. You don't want to not be playing a forward pass at that point. If Ange is your manager, apparently absolutely destroys you if you don't do that. So, yeah, it must have felt so bad for Hibs. You know, they must have, you know, from the heights of thinking, right, we're 1-0 up, to just, you know, where did that come from? It's level again. It's been taken away from them. But, you know, the Hibs goal really came out of nothing, didn't it? They hadn't given much as an attacking force. been mostly Celtic. Kyogo made the team, which, I think gave us all a lift into it, and just as well he did. The boy get the 2 goals. Hopefully today, being the 21st with the 10-day quarantine, we'll hear or see some pictures from Heathrow of some of his compatriots flying in.
That would be very nice. Whenever those compatriots maybe pull on the hoops, we don't know as of yet, if we've already mentioned at the top of the show. But Patrick, on that point that Lawrence makes, we make substitutions late in the game. We see Owen Moffat come on for only his second senior appearance for Celtic. Tony Ralston, I think he picked up a wee knock up in Dingwall. It probably wasn't 100% fit. Kyogo back in. The substitutions that we made in the game probably had to happen at that point in the game. They could have come back to bite us in the backside, but with greater depth in that squad, you can just see how this could be transformational. Like what Lawrence has said there, even if you go back to Wednesday when we've not been on since, what we could bring off the bench to what we actually have to bring off the bench just now could be just a million miles apart.
Yeah, I mean, it's very difficult, and I think we've got 4 games to go. Might have less than that depending what today's news brings, but it's not happening at the worst of times because we've got so many players out at the minute. We'd probably like to see a few more back. When Chris Julian will be back, we never know. But I think Jota isn't far away. I think Forrest isn't far away. So, it's good to have a wee 3-week break and try and get a lot of these guys back for the second half of the season. But, it was a bit bare bones, despite what some BBC journalists would have you believe just over a week ago. It is bare bones. And, luckily, the quality that we have on the bench, it might not be good for our first team, but I think it's good for 30 minutes in a cup final to match a Burning.
No, absolutely. And on that point, Lawrence, I think one of the things that's kind of went under the radar, and it was spoken about in ACSOM yesterday, but again, and the mainstream is how many debutants we had in a cup final in a Celtic jersey on Sunday. There was lots of players in there. I know Joe Hart's an experienced player, and he's won trophies in England. He's captained his national side, but it was the first cup final for Celtic, and we'll get on to Carl Starfelt later because I know he's getting a bit of a hard time from some quarters of the Celtic fans for his performance on Sunday, but it can't go under the radar that a lot of them, debutised in a cup final and went on to win the cup. I know Hibs fans are giving it, it's just another trophy for Celtic, but a lot of these guys in their very first cup final went on to win the cup. Majority of that Hibs team, guys like Paul Hanlon, has played in multiple cup finals for Hibs, whereas this Celtic team was full of fresh faces that had never played in a cup final at Hampden. Yeah,
I mean, it's always the question, can they handle the big game? Can they handle the pressure? This team's been compared to one team quite a few times, and I think when they won the Coca-Cola Cup at Poundland, that was a big step for that team. That season they speak about, when they played Liverpool, we thought we're a good team. This team has spoke about it, when we were 2 up against Betis, we were a good team. So, the similarities are continuing. We got a talismanic forward in then as well. So, and the talismanic forward has scored a Larsson-esque goal in a cup final, or 2 Larsson-esque goals in a cup final. So, yeah, lots of similarities. And it's great that the guys have got, I suppose, the first trophy off their back. Some people that have kind of recently come and gone from Scotland, it taken them multiple attempts to get a trophy. But these guys have done it first time asking.
Yeah, and that's it. And that can only grow confidence in that Celtic dressing room, Patrick, because I think one of the things we said a lot when we've looked at that Celtic team in early stages this season especially was possibly a psychological issue in some of the parts, just through the way we'd played last season, the way in European games that we had went up and, the San Siro and against Sparta Prague and whatever else. But, it looks as if Ange has managed to fix that psychology in there and, getting that winning feeling along the line, 97th minute winner up in the Highland, up in Dingwall, and then to win the cup at Hampden, to me, is a double jab right in the opponent.
Well, certainly domestically, he seems to fix the mentality. Personally, I'll wait until the 2-leg tie against Bodo Glimt is over until I determine whether or not we've got a mentality problem, because that'll be a big test for us, I think. But, to keep going, all the way up in Dingwall, as you say. It's the first time we've been on since that happened. It was absolutely excellent for people like Moffat, McGregor, and Vodrick to try and work it into a wide area, then cross it in, and it's a brilliant cross. And then in a cup final, to show your powers of recovery. I think it was like 1 minute and 15 seconds between the goals. It's absolutely phenomenal. And then, the intelligence from Roderick to take that quick free kick as well for Kyogo's second goal. And Kyogo's finish is absolutely sublime. I mean, it's unbelievable how difficult that is. And as Lawrence said, what a difference he made playing, because it does give you something extra in the game. When you've got a recognised striker, it gives you something even more when it's a striker of that quality. And he scored the 2 goals, so it was definitely a difference maker.
Yeah, it was a difference maker. And that Tom Roderick free kick that you referred to, Patrick, that's the one that Scott Allen's waiting to come on the pitch, even though he's still got his full trackie on and bibble, and he's standing up the staircase.
He's still taking instructions from one of the coaches.
Yeah, I think he's still probably go to the toilet or whatever else before as well. But, hey ho. But on that, Lawrence touched on there, kind of, the comparison that's been made between Wim Jansen, Henrik Larsson, and Ange Postecoglou and Kyogo Furuhashi. Both those partnerships come at the end of a period of dominance for a club, and this one that we're starting to see transform, it is coming to fruition to an extent, because we do rely on Kyogo, and I think without him on Sunday, I would have still fancied Celtic to win the game, but without him, I think we're a completely different team, and it's about getting players in at a similar quality that's at that level. Because again, on Sunday, you could see he wasn't 100% fit, but he was constantly making those runs that he wanted to make, and he was pressing Matt Macy in goals.
I think if we're to get 11 players of the quality of Kyogo, we're in a very, very good place, because I don't think we'll be able to do that, to be honest. But if we aim for that, it's a very good place to be. And as you say, it did make a massive difference. I think I read somewhere that Matt Macy's 6'7", and Kyogo chipped him. So and he doesn't take a touch of anything. The ball's bouncing and he chips him. Hits it first time. So tremendous quality. And I think every Celtic fan is still amazed that we got him for, what was it, 4 million or something, 3 million. Just an unbelievable signing. And I think that's the point of looking in these different countries, looking at these markets. You can get a player of such good quality for a cut down fee compared to what you would get in England or Europe or something like that. So yes, if the 3 other Japanese guys are anywhere near Kyogo's quality, I think we're in for a good 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, absolutely. And probably one of the best 8 AM tweets that we've ever had. We went from wishing people happy birthday only a few months previous to announcing Kyogo in the morning. So some contrast and difference. Lawrence, just before I come on to you, it's good to see that Newcastle fans are tuning into watches, because I'm sure they're having a great time with Eddie Howe as our gaffer.
Yes.
He thinks we're jealous, we're really not. I'm sure that Newcastle would much rather have the boss that we've got, the boss called Postecoglou. Lawrence, we touched on Wim Jansen, and we touched on the comparison that's been drawn here. Ange getting that first trophy over the line is such a marker for this Celtic team. It's a Celtic team that, we've watched through periods of domination. It's a Celtic team that I think for now the past 3 or 4 years has won a cup in December at Hampden. Obviously the Scottish Cup final from the year previous was postponed. But, just getting that first trophy over the line is such a huge marker for Celtic. It's the trophy that starts the treble, so it still puts you in place if you're challenging to win that. And, once again, it's a trophy that we used to struggle in, and now it's becoming, something that we're not taking it for granted, but, we always think we're in a good chance of winning it. And as Patrick says, I think if we go into it just before the quarter-final stage, so it's 2 games, then 2 games at Hampden. So it's a trophy that we should probably always be looking at trying to challenge for every season, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, now we pick it up more often than not, don't we? As you said, even kind of great team in the 70s, they used to get to the final, but used to struggle to win it. So, it's definitely been a turnaround trophy. But, yeah, Ange getting his first trophy, I think, is huge. I think there was still some doubters out there about, well, I'm not too sure of this playing at the back, or we create a lot of chances, we don't take enough. if you do watch that kind of mini docu on Age of Ange, he's won trophies everywhere he goes, and he's just so driven in his belief and how his team should play football. And the reference kind of many of the doubts that other fans had, that Celtic fans have now. So I think it's good that he's got silverware, especially the first season when we were speaking to the likes of Jared and Dan, and they were saying, look, first season, don't expect anything. It's going to be a bit up and down. So, the first trophy, in a few months in the door, he's got the first trophy. I think it's outstanding. And the way that the team are playing football is just phenomenal.
And Patrick, one of the things, I was talking to somebody earlier about Ange, and he was saying to me that, possibly it just didn't work out as well as it could have in Japan due to the language barrier that was already there. Obviously coming into a Japanese club, and again, I think one of the things that needs to be admired about Ange Postecoglou is the risk that he takes in moving around from Australia to Japan to then over to Scotland. It's a big risk to take. It's a big risk to bring your whole family with you. It shows you how committed the guy is to football and his love of the game, that he's willing to take that risk and how much belief he has in himself. And that kind of belief that he has in himself has been installed in that Celtic team just now.
100%. And, it's what we said about the Newcastle manager, Edward Howe. He was delaying for 8 weeks and eventually backed out, presumably because he never got his backroom staff. Ange travelled halfway around the world himself. I don't think he's brought anyone with him apart from Kyogo. So it shows you how much he does back himself, and it's an impressive quality, not just in a manager but in a human being. How much confidence he must have in his ability and what he's done in the past. And as you say, it must give not only the players but people around the club, because there's no doubt that certain livelihoods will depend on how he performs as a manager and how his players perform. So to take all that on your shoulders is an absolutely tremendous risk, but it's extremely admirable from our perspective. And it's obviously worked wonders so far, and hopefully the best is yet to come.
Yeah, the best could be yet to come. On that, Lawrence, that point that we're making there around Ange taking risks and coming in, obviously, there was a lot made about him not having his own backroom team, if you will. Can that now be put to bed? We saw an image on Sunday of a lot of them of Ange with John Kennedy, Stephen McManus, Gavin Strachan, I think Anton McElhone's in the picture, Tim Williamson, Stevie Woods, Hugh, Stevie, the kitman. Can that now be put to bed that he's quite happy with what he's got there?
Yeah, listen, he said they'd give him a clean slate, didn't he? But if you look at previously in his career, and since he's come here, he's also stated that he likes to do the scout himself. He likes to do a lot of the work himself. And I think after Greece, he spent a year or two out where he was just doing some private coaching on the game and commentating for sports media in Oz. But he speaks about all that time he was planning how his teams were going to play, what they were going to do. He went to Brisbane Roar, transformed them, South Melbourne, Australian national team, and then on to Japan and to us. And they've all played the same style, the same intensity. So I think we're going to take him at his word that he actually likes doing it himself. And I think it's an admirable quality that he's prepared to give all these guys, a clean slate and start again. Just let's see what you've got. Look what he's got out of it from Tony Ralston. As an example of giving a guy a clean slate and saying, right, start again. This is what I want you to do. Can you do it? I saw him and Kennedy having a chat about the subs just at the end. So they've obviously got a relationship there where he's listening to them as to what should happen. Because when Mikey went down, it looked like he was going to get back up. Not too sure. So they're definitely working well together on the evidence. We've got the first trophy and we're playing great football. But I think for some managers, they like to take a big entourage. Howe being one of them. Others are quite happy to, maybe work with what we've got. I suppose people are different. Some people work differently. I think Ange is just so focused. It doesn't matter if it's his own guys or who's round about him. He knows what's going to happen and how he's going to do it. So it's, he'll give you a chance to join him and doing it and telling you how he wants it done. And if you don't perform and don't do it, I think he would just, he would change it in a heartbeat and bring somebody in. But as he's not done that, I'm assuming that these guys are doing what he wants.
Yeah, 100%. Patrick, for me now, I think that those things need to be dispelled. If he does want to bring in somebody else, by all means, but I think at this point in time, he seems to be quite settled with what he's already got there as his backroom staff, as Lawrence makes a really good point on. You know, Ange's a big character, he's a big figure in terms of, I think, the way in which football players get instructions for him, in terms of his respect that he's got in the dressing room and the respect he commands in that dressing room. And it does seem, you know, on the face of it, that he is running the show and the coaches around him are just executing his plans and ideas.
Yeah, I think is it Ryan McGowan, former Australian player, said that he's quite distant. You know, he's not on the training ground. He's not a coach in that sense. You know, he's very much a manager, and he's probably given people like Kennedy, people like Strachan instructions, I should say, on how to take the team, how to train. You know, what drills are doing, and I think he said it in an interview somewhere a month or two ago that, you know, he can't be overly friendly with the players, he can't be overly close to them because he doesn't want his judgment to be clouded by any sort of personal relationship. So he needs to keep a safe distance. And, you know, in that sense, he obviously trusts Kennedy and Strachan massively because, and, you know, it's obviously paid off because the team's playing pretty well. You know, he's trusting them to execute his plan, and it is going pretty well. And he obviously backs himself. He says that everywhere he goes, and he's backed, you know, Strachan, Kennedy, McManus, and it's worked. So it's just another bit of proof that his judgment is correct.
Yeah, 100%. In terms of judgment's correct, let's pick through this Celtic team. I think it's only right that we look at it from a perspective of where we are just now, and, you know, our initial reactions and thoughts. So, you know, Joe Hart, I think, is one of the people we really need to talk about here because, you know, when he came in, Lawrence, at first there was questions asked, you know, where was Joe Hart? How good a goalkeeper was he? To get him in on a permanent at that point is going to pay absolute massive dividends, because when Fraser Forster returned to Celtic at the beginning of season 19-20, we knew he was only a loan deal and there was a potential for him to go back to Southampton and not be our player. That's what happened. We have stability here with Joe Hart. We've got him on a contract. He's going to be our goalkeeper next season, I'd imagine. But just the strength I think he gives those players at the back, and he makes some absolutely cracking saves in a cup final that you really need a Celtic goalkeeper to make when the big moment happens, especially those ones at the end. And Patrick and I were having a conversation yesterday about XG. Hibs created a higher XG just due to the chances that they made post 89 minutes. But yet again, there was Joe Hart to shut them out. And one of their top saves in the game was the one Nesbitt gives Starfield a torrid time, turns him inside out. It's a cracking save from Joe Hart.
Yeah, listen, he's Golden Gloves winner. He'd done it all before he came here. He might have lost his way, never really gets a chance at Spurs. 34, you'd expect him to have another 3 or 4 years in him, wouldn't you? I like he's, you know, for all that he's done, he's still very humble. You know, he's come out and made the statement, I'm not the best goalkeeper in the world, but what I do is I try my hardest and give my everything for the club I play for. The stop was outstanding from Hart, and even kind of later on in the other, you know, at his right hand post when he had to save it kind of in the last few minutes as well. But I think he's given a lot of confidence to the whole team, especially the defence in front of him. Terrible time last year, but people maybe were looking behind him and going, who are we getting goals? You know, if I'm beat, this is a goal because the keeper's not made a save yet. You know, and we're talking about the end of the season, he hadn't made a save. Whereas with Hart, you know, if you're a centre half, you get beat. You know Hart's likely to save it, don't you? You're not writing it off as a goal. So I think Hart's just been an immense signing. The fact that he taken a wage cut shows that he came here desperate to play football. The amount of money that he dropped. So still gives us a heart attack now and again with the ball at his feet. But you know what? He's a cracking keeper. You know, and I think he's way above anything that we could have got for that kind of money. So on goalkeeping ability and what he gives in experience to the squad, which is a very young squad just now. You've got to remember that this squad is really young.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. Patrick, there's a few comments coming in with regards to Joe Hart. The word rhymes with bright. People thought at the corner that was how his goalkeeping could be summed up. But do you think Joe Hart should have came and committed for the ball? Or was it right to stand the line? Obviously, the man in the line, and it's just with the sheer pace of the ball, it hits off a Jura and goes into the net. but there's still some folk in the comments, like, I don't want to put them up because the language isn't too fruitful, and obviously we're trying to be PG on here, but yeah, do you think that at times at set pieces is still a concern for Celtic at this moment in time?
I think set pieces are. I don't think Joe Hart is.
No.
I think he probably could have came for the ball, but it's Starfelt should still be twacking his man. I think the last 2 goals anyway we've conceded have been from set pieces. I think you need to go back to Betis at home. They have conceded a goal from open play, and then domestically I can't even think the last time we conceded from open play. I'm sure someone will correct me, but I think Joe Hart, he gives you tremendous confidence, and it's not that he's, he said it himself, it's not like he's a phenomenal goalkeeper, but he seems to be comfortable with the ball at his feet. He's an experienced player. The guys obviously like him and trust him, and he's a good shot stopper, which, in my opinion, Barkas and Bain are not. And you talk about coming out for cross balls. I think that was Connor Hazard's big flaw. He's not the worst goalkeeper in the world, and I think he has probably been unfairly treated. But I think he was at fault for 2 of the goals in the cup final, and then a Hibs equaliser at Celtic Park in January. So, the confidence that he gives defenders, it's hard to quantify that in stats or any other way. And I think I said to you, I think we came out of a podcast when Celtic signed Joe Hart, and I think I said to you, it's going to go one or 2 ways. This is going to be a sort of comical disaster, or it's going to be a bit of a coup, a really good signing. And so far, it's paid dividends.
Yeah, Paul's come in here in the comments and he's seen Hearts win his games already. You can absolutely live with a few flaws, absolutely. I totally agree with that. I think without Joe Hart this season, we'd be a poorer team. Lawrence, even in the way that we try and play football, you see how quickly he wants to release the ball to his defenders. One of the things you were talking about there, Lawrence, was defenders last season looking behind them and going, I don't really have confidence here that if I miss the ball, my goalkeeper's going to be there. One of the performances at the weekend, Carl Starfelt didn't have his best of games in his Celtic jersey, probably one of the worst games we've seen him play in his Celtic jersey. One game doesn't make you a bad player, we all know that, but there's probably a confidence from all of us as fans that, if Carl Starfelt makes a mistake, Vickers is usually there to tidy it up for him, or if a player beats him like Nisbet did, Joe Hart's there. So if you do have a bad game, like Carl Starfelt did at the weekend, you're relying on the guys around you, and that's what the team's all about. You win as a team, you lose as a team.
Totally. I think you're right to start it off. Keep it in perspective. We've got the best defensive record in the league. Patrick's touching it. When did we lose a goal from open play? Yeah, it's set pieces, but you know what? We are the best in the league defensively. Yeah, we have our flaws, but we're going to lose goals now and again over the course of the season. Yeah, Starfelt had a poor game. He's been dug out by Joe Hart again. Maybe Starfelt was affected by getting another elbow in the face and the ref letting it go again. He doesn't seem to like it, elbows in the face, although refs don't seem to see them, or if they see them, have an issue with it. But it's a solid partnership now with CCV, isn't it? And those 3, just at back, Hart, CCV, and Starfelt. Yeah, but we're going to keep clean sheets in more games than we lose goals. We're not going to lose a lot of goals. It's still early doors in terms of forming a partnership. We haven't reached the turn of the year yet, so I'd imagine it's only going to get better.
Mm-hmm. No, 100%. I totally agree with you on that one. Patrick, a player that's been quite versatile. We've seen him obviously featured in defence, and we've seen him featured in midfield. He comes on. He's one of the most experienced players in that Celtic team. He's racking up some amount of medals, big Nero, as he's been referred to now. But once again, I thought he came on at the weekend. He did his job really well. I thought he played the ball around well. And again, I think that possibly affected us because David Turnbull's played such a amount of games for Celtic. He is one of the key players to Ange's system working. And obviously, the game plan must have been changed when David Turnbull goes off because you're getting a completely different asset, and Callum McGregor been pushed forward a wee bit further. But what was your thoughts on Neil Beaton's performance at the weekend? In terms of where we are at just now, how valuable a player has he been at the squad, and Ange's results so far?
Yeah, I mean, just with COVID and wanting to win the cup final, I'd forgotten just how important Turnbull was and how he there's a high likelihood he's going to miss Wednesday night and the games after that. I was just quite disappointed he couldn't play the cup final. But when Nero came on, he didn't put a foot wrong. That's for sure. He probably does slow the game down, but especially when you're ahead, I think you need that. And he's quite confident. Taking us up the pitch. I remember he ran with the ball 30-40 yards and won as a foul, and I think Jovanovic ended up taking it, putting it over the bar. But he done well. I thought he played well for the 60-65 minutes. 60-65 minutes he was playing, and he'll probably play the next 4 games as well. And as you say, he's picked up another winners' medal. I think it'll be between him, Forrest, and McGregor for who's got the most winners' medals at the moment at Celtic. But I've never been his biggest fan, but that was when he was at defence. So as long as he keeps playing in midfield, I've got no problems.
Once he's disappeared, you might disappear. It might be a solo show in a wee couple of minutes' time. But he's been there. He's been an asset. I think he's returned to form, Patrick. I think since he's been into that midfield area for Celtic, we're starting to see some of the quality that we had initially under when Neil Lennon signed him. He was a good player when he's first signed, and then even when Brendan came in at first, played in that 5-1 game. He was key in some of those big Champions League games. I think he played against Man City in the midfield too. So we know he's a big game player. On that wee point that you're making there, I think Forrest, if he got a medal at the weekend, and obviously scored the winner in the semi-final, I think that would have been his 20th medal, winners' medal for Celtic, meaning he is not far off being the most successful Celtic player of all time. If Celtic continue to win trophies, somebody can tell us this in the comments. I think Bobby Lennox is Celtic's most successful ever player, followed by Billy McNeil. I'm not too sure where James Forrest is in this just now, but he must be very highly up there. Because what did Scott Brown finish with? 21, 22 major honours?
I'm not sure. I think Billy's got 23. You said Lennox is higher than him, though.
Yeah.
And so, do you know what Lennox's tally is? No.
I don't know. Somebody needs to tell us in the comments.
I don't think it's far above 23, so I think Forrest is in with a chance.
Yeah, I don't want to start counting up cup finals and league championships on here because my maths isn't that hot. But if somebody can tell us how many Bobby Lennox has got, we'll see how far James Forrest is off that, which is incredible when you think about it. Because Bobby Lennox or Lisbon Lion, I don't think many people would probably include the two of them in the same bracket. But in terms of if the wee man was asked to put his medals out beside Bobby, there wouldn't be too many medals short at this point in time, would there?
No. I mean, Bobby does have that medal from Lisbon, which, unfortunately for James, I don't think he's ever going to get. But, you never know with the Conference League. It's still not the same as a European Cup winners' medal, particularly that medal. But, it's an impressive start. I think not everyone would say he's deserving of it. He's maybe not performed as well as he could have done in his first 6 seasons as a first team regular, but can't argue with stats like that. I don't recall seeing him in the celebrations, so I don't know whether that means he gets a medal or not.
I don't know.
But I mean, even if he is on 19, I fancy us for another 3 trophies this season. So no, I'm only kidding. So I think he's in with a shout, and with Ange, a winner like McGregor as captain, I think he could get that if he was. I think he's only got 2 years left in his deal, but I think if he were to sign one more extension, he might just get there.
Well, Sean's telling us in the comments that Bobby's got 24 medals, so if that is the correct figure, Forrest got one at the weekend, he's only 4 off him now, 4 to equal him. And I think the record for British player is actually Ryan Giggs, 28, 29, so you don't know what could happen.
If he plays till 40 like Giggsy.
There you go. You don't know what could happen. 21 medals for Scott Brown, so James Forrest probably likely to be more medals than Scott Brown at Celtic, so that's one thing to keep an eye on. Patrick, just to kind of look at the forward three at the weekend, Kyogo, obviously 2 phenomenal goals. We've not spoken about them too much, but the guys to his left and right hand side, I think one of the things I was trying to keep in perspective again is how young Lula Bada is. He's younger than me and you. When we're shouting and getting frustrated at him, he is a young player. He's only 20. He came in at 19. Again, he's taken a big step to come over here from his native country. But again, with time, he should only get better, Lula Bada. And again, to play a big cup final at the age of 20 is something to really nod your head at. And again, on young Owen Moffat coming on, it's great experience for him to get that in a Celtic jersey.
100%, and I think Owen done pretty well when he came on as well. It's hard not to be frustrated when you're watching Abada these days, in my opinion, but I suppose you do have to take into account he is 20, and I'm not sure how many games he played before he came to Celtic, but he has played a lot of games already this season. I think he's played about 30 games, if not just shy of that. Mikey Johnson, I think maybe at another club you could maybe say he's a young player at 22, but Turnbull's 22. Turnbull's, I think, 3 months younger than him. Started every game this season. Arguably the best player in the team last season because the team wasn't playing too well. But I think, Mikey Johnson will get more time. Whether he deserves that or not, I'm not too sure. I'm sure people have their own opinions, but no, we struggled, but it is a light squad and they are young players, so just need to give them the benefit of the doubt, and luckily it didn't cost us on Sunday. Yeah,
and hopefully cup final experience like that should do them something that, again, I think maybe Abada and Johnson are confidence players and they need that. We run out of games in the team. Here we go. Solo now. Lawrence is buggered off. Patrick's off ski, so it's the ACSOM show now. Hopefully Patrick comes back. Paul is chuckling away in the background because he knows I've been left myself. So Patrick's back. We're all right. Patrick's back. Left me there, my lonesome, but you're back, so that's okay. So we've been corrected. Bobby has 25 medals, just in case we get this wrong. So it's 25 medals. I think if Forest equals that, we'll need to start including Driver Cups as and Glasgow Cups as major honours, because I don't think anybody wants probably wee Jamesy to take over Bobby. But if he does, fair play to him, because that's some doing. Patrick, we'll go to our taglines now. Tomorrow night it's going to be a tough game. It's always a tough game getting to St Mirren Park. What kind of team do you expect Ange to put out? Because they will have played Sunday. A lot of them looked absolutely knackered towards the end on Sunday. We've played a mountain of games so far. We've seen Kyogo come back in, whether or not Ange feels as if he's going to be ready to go again to start on Wednesday night. And then we've obviously seen the David Turnbull injury. What kind of team do you expect to be played tomorrow night in Paisley?
Well, I'd start Kyogo firstly. I don't know whether I'm missing something, but I've never understood why, if a player's not 100% fit, why you wouldn't start him. Because if you bring him on as a sub and he gets tired, you're going to have to take him off again. That's 2 substitutes you've made. So you're better off starting him and only using 1 substitute. But I think he'll play a relatively similar team. I don't see any reason to change the defence. I think a straight swap of Turnbull for Beaton, I think that's fairly reasonable. It's just a bit of a mystery with the front 3 at the minute. I think he might play Kyogo. If he starts him and we're 2-0 up at half time, I think that'd be best case scenario. I think on the wings, St Mirren, I think, have got 12 players out. So
yeah, that's what Red said just in the comments here, that St Mirren are ravaged with call-off due to positive tests. So Celtic should be looking to hammer them. Whether that's the case or not, that we give them a doing. It's certainly a positive that, pardon the pun, that we're going to be playing a side here. Playing a side here that's not going to be at their full strength, but it'll still be a tough old game with that.
100%, and not disrespect, but you don't want to underestimate them by playing guys like Moffat. I don't think he's actually started a competitive game for Celtic. He's came on twice as a substitute, so whether he's ready for that, I don't know. Especially with Abad on the other side not really performing, it's a difficult one to call with the wingers. I think there's a possibility James Forrest could be back, but I'm not entirely sure of that. I think with such weak options in the wings, I think you probably have to go with Kyogo through the middle, I'll be honest. And hopefully we can take a couple of goals off them, because as good as it is to win, we have been scraping it the last couple of weeks. So with them having 12 players out, I still struggle to see the game going ahead personally. I'm usually a bit of an optimist, but I'm quite pessimistic about tomorrow night. I'm just there's a bit of a everyone's in a bit of a downer when it comes to COVID, you know. So whether it's with no fans or whether it's no game at all, it's a smaller capacity stadium. It's outside. Yeah, I personally think it should go ahead, but you just never know. And yeah, I think we'll see. You know, just to run through the team: Hart, Jovanovic, Carter Vickers, Starfelt, Taylor, Beaton, Rogic, McGregor, probably Johnston, Kyogo and Abada.
Well, Sean, completely different team from that. He's gone with some similarities, but he wants Juranovic back out in that wing. It's the team that basically finished at the weekend. Obviously, he wants Welsh in there instead of Starfelt. I personally don't think that would do Carl Starfelt any good. If Ange was just to instantly drop him. I thought Greg Taylor had a great game at left back at the weekend. It's arguably one of his best games in a Celtic jersey. I thought he played really, really well in the game. Even getting forward and having a shot, something we've not really seen from him a lot. Skills obviously came out of the park. Beaton will be coming in, I'd imagine, for David Turnbull. Moffat, you know, and a game like that, it's not a big park. He might struggle a wee bit. And again, you know, Johnson played okay at the weekend, so I'd imagine he'll continue out in the wing for Celtic. Patrick, before the game at the weekend, before we went to the game in the morning, through a newspaper, came the news from a sportsperson from Bernard Higgins to say that he would not be taking up the position at Celtic Football Club after he retired from Police Scotland. This has been something that's rumbled on now for months. It's something that has affected the atmosphere around Celtic Park due to no transparency from the Celtic board in this. They ruled the matter out at the AGM when Ian Bankier was challenged on it and said he wouldn't comment on it. Everything is on the table at this moment in time. It's now been ruled out, not been ruled out by the club. The club are yet to mention the very name of Bernard Higgins now. It's now time to move on from a club perspective, from the board perspective, and engage properly with fans again. Whether they can or not, you know, we'll soon see. But this has now been put to bed. It's time to start rebuilding and getting those three things working together again, because we've got two of them. Seen that at the weekend. You saw that the team in the park, along with the management and the supporters in the stands, united as one. But you know, I still think the people that were in those stands up in the director's box are still a far distance from them and a lot of the Celtic support just now.
100%. You know, how Ian Bankier's still at the club. You know, I know it's all about shareholders, but I think if you were to take a poll from season ticket holders, he'd be out, as with one or two others. You know, they've been asking for communication, and I think it's either Celtic Shared or the North Curve or the Green Brigade. It's one of the three. They all sort of get mixed in my mind, but they've been asking for a meeting with the board to talk this through, and the board just haven't contacted them. They haven't engaged at all. And in the midst of all that, at Bertrand's funeral, Willie Hawley, who, big Celtic fan, big businessman, he's probably got X amount of shares in Celtic, was quite happy to say, you know, what a display they put on. And yet Celtic are afraid to even post pictures of the display on their social media because they don't accept the Green Brigade, they don't accept pyrotechnics. They're more than happy to sell pictures of the Barcelona Tifo in the club shop that the Green Brigade organised and paid for. But they're also quite happy to take them on by appointing former Chief of Police. And, you know, there was a lot of tension in the ground, I think, at the Motherwell game a week and a half ago about the silent protest. The silent protest was from 3,000 people. I think less than 3,000 people. The other 50-odd thousand, well, it was available to them to sing during the game. They chose not to. The point of the silent protest is this is what Celtic Park is going to be like if people like Bernard Higgins are appointed and have their way. They're going to ban people from the stadium. They were trying to arrest people just a matter of years ago for singing songs. The fact the club even contemplated this and there's been no communication whatsoever, it's shambolic. And I think I've said on here that if it's going to be a choice between the Green Brigade and the Celtic board are probably going to lose, and they have lost.
Yeah, well, in this situation, again, you know, the club have yet to actually mention this name. They could have, completely doused the flames on this. It seemed almost as if, whether they did contemplate it or not, as if they just wouldn't engage in it whatsoever. Which I think, as fans, I think everybody was baffled in it. It would have been very easily for a meeting to be had. Just to quickly go back to the point we were making, I must apologise to Sean, because in the midst of all our cup final celebrations, we've forgotten that Carol Starfelt is suspended for Wednesday evening. Again, the refereeing in Scotland means that if you get elbowed in the face, you get booked. So, apologies to Sean. He's probably right. Welshie will probably come into that team. And Michael and the other guys I've corrected as a bang on. Starfelt is suspended for tomorrow evening, which might actually pay him some dividends because he's not undroppable. Of course not. I think had he been available for selection, it wouldn't have helped him to be dropped by the manager. But he's going to be sitting this one out due to him being suspended. So thanks everybody for telling us off for that, because we got that badly wrong, me and you there. But again, elbowed in the face and you get booked for it. But hey ho, that's Scottish football. But yeah, I think the point that you've made in that, Patrick, is bang on, that the fact the club just didn't engage with it at all, whether or not they did contemplate the appointment. Many people will say, they've not even mentioned it, so they weren't contemplating it. They'll come out and tell us that. Tell us they're not contemplating it. Tell us that they're looking, actively for somebody in that position, but they are, having whatever else. They're doing interviews or speaking to people, but they just didn't want to talk to us about it. And again, that's something that can't continue to happen. Ian Banker said at the AGM, you'd like us to do all our business out in the open. That's not our style. I think some Celtic fans would rather just an engagement there, to go out and speak to fans that engage with them in any way, shape or form that they see fit, because it's important to have that connection between all three that Brendan Rodgers spoke about, the trinity of supporters, the team in the part of the management, and the people upstairs making the decisions.
Yes, the Holy Trinity. Ian Bankier uses the words "do our business out in the open." I think it's just a bit of transparency. There are banners and protests going on that Jovanovic himself has admitted is making its way into the dressing room, and the board are doing nothing to calm those fears, to settle the nerves. And some people seem to think it's the Green Brigade's fault. It's the board's fault. Without the board contemplating this decision, without someone leaking it to the press that they're going to contemplate this decision, these protests don't happen. And maybe we should start doing our business out in the open. Maybe not the transfer dealings, but when it comes to highly controversial appointments like this, it can't be done in private for 2 months and then all of a sudden it's scrapped. It matters too much to people. The football club, and for someone who purposely targeted football fans, friends, family. I'm sure there are individuals who go to games now who have been personally targeted by Bernard Higgins. I don't know what the club were thinking. I'm not sure what moron in the boardroom decided that this was a good idea.
Well, we now know he won't be at the club, and again, it's time to take that forward step and move on from it. If they are seeking somebody in that position, I'm sure they could engage with supporters and talk to them. I'm not saying that supporters dictate exactly who gets the job, but you can at least engage and balance it up to what would suit. There's plenty of good people out there that I'm sure are Celtic fans, not holding high positions like Bernard Higgins, but can do the job just as effectively in terms of planning, in terms of Celtic fans' safety. Jason Hamilton's come in the comments here to say board games. I think during this whole saga, Patrick, it was like a game of Cluedo of who's done it, who's the person that's contemplated this decision, and what are they thinking of. Just backhand. If the board do back the manager in January, we've been linked to 3 players. If all 3 do come in, Patrick, is that the first step in moving on? Is the 3 of us as a connection here?
Just in those board games, I do remember, we beat Dundee 6-0 in the first domestic win under Ange, and the next day Gordon Strachan was rumoured as an appointment, a sort of, what do you call it, an advisory role. And, someone summed it up really well on Twitter. The board really know how to kill the good vibe created by the team. It's unbelievable. But, on backing the manager, I think those three players, they'll give us strength and depth, and I think that's the only thing we're really missing. It's not. I don't think it's cost us points so far. I don't think we've dropped any points due to a lack of depth. We've still got 4 games to go, obviously, but I'm actually not convinced that those 3 players would be enough. I think we might need 1 or 2 more beyond that. I'm not entirely sure. We do have 3 strikers, but one of them plainly isn't good enough. And he's also injured. There's a question over his fitness. He's currently injured. You don't know. No one said how long he'll be out for. Whether the staff know or not is another question. But I personally think Joe Hart is the only keeper that's good enough at Celtic at the minute. You could maybe give Connor Hazard another chance, but I wouldn't be looking to him as a backup. He's maybe third choice. So I think we're still a few signings away from having a perfectly balanced side, but getting bodies in that Ange thinks he can utilise, I think would be a good start, and we're definitely getting that in the 3 Japanese guys, because if we're signing anyone from Japan, it's an Ange signing. Yeah,
and on our usual regular Tuesday contributors, Bryn Warriors came on here to say if the board back Ange in January, Higgins will soon be forgotten. I don't know if he'll be forgotten, Patrick. I think this is a saga that's went on for too long for it to be forgotten. If it was just a newspaper story that had been for a week and was then scrubbed, I think maybe then it would have been, but I think it's went on too long and it took too much of an effect over the football club. As you say, it even spread to the dressing room, which we know was confirmed by Jura post-match against Motherwell. I don't think it'll be forgotten, but I think a lot of Celtic fans want success for the football club, and the best way of doing that is supporting the team, which will be happening. Great support at Hampden at the weekend, great support happening in Dingwall, and it was a very easy way for me to get round these silent protests was the board engaging with the fans. That didn't happen, but I don't think this will be forgotten. But as long as the manager is backed in January, I think for me it's the first step in trying to rebuild any sort of relationship that once existed.
Yes, 100%. I don't think it'll be forgotten either. It's quite clear last season the board treat the fans with complete contempt, total disdain, and they've shown that again this season with this stunt. It's totally unacceptable, and it doesn't matter if we win the quadruple this season. We still have principles, and what Bernard Higgins flies in the face of most of them. Yeah, it did actually. I think it went on for longer, because I think it was some point in October it was first linked, and we're now over halfway into December, and I think Eddie Howe was the same. But no, it's not going to be forgotten. No stretch of the imagination. I think certain board members will be forgiven. I think people like Ian Bankia are too far gone. He's been there for too many years. He's defended too many decisions that are so baffling beyond belief. Forgiven, maybe. Forgotten, definitely not.
Yeah, I think, at one point there was maybe the idea that, Peter Lowell departing the building. It became clear that his departing gift to us was Ange Postecoglou. From everything that we've probably read and heard, especially at the AGM, that was ultimately, I think, Peter's decision in going and getting Ange. Again, we're not privy to exactly what happened there, but that's, as I believe it, the Peter Lowell made the decision on Ange bringing him into the football club. That one person departing, Patrick, as you say, would just make it all better, but I think some guys are now, as you say, too far gone. Obviously, Michael Nicholson just now is still acting chief executive. Again, for a football club the size of Celtic, it's taken months now to make up the role of who's making that permanent, whether it will be Michael or whether somebody will come in externally. What do you expect to happen around that now? Do you think that Michael will get the position full time, or do you think he'll go back to his role? I think Michael was company secretary before he was moved up, if you will, to acting chief executive.
I mean, if I'm totally honest, I'm not too sure. I can see him probably getting the job, whether it's a lazy option, whether it's bootroom stuff where you promote somebody from within. I'm not too sure. As far as I'm concerned, he's not made any mistakes yet, because I think the Higgins stuff was probably a few weeks in the pipeline before we heard anything about it in the middle of October. So I think it might be a bit unfair to pin that on him. But you never know. I think how we do in this transfer window and the next transfer window might be a better reflection on how he's doing. I think they're probably giving him the season, because I think we're probably looking at Dominic Mackay from before the pandemic, and we'll announce him in January and then appointed him in July. So these things, obviously, I'm not sure what it's like for other clubs. I know other clubs in Glasgow have got interim CEOs and chairmen and have done for a wee while. We use their buses to go to games. And, I don't know how long these things normally take. I certainly wouldn't rush it. With Ange in charge, I think the football sort of takes care of itself as long as you give him enough money to keep up the standard of the playing squad. So I think, give him the job, don't give him the job. It's hard to make a judgment right now, but it'll probably be the end of the season before anything happens for certain.
Yeah, probably, banks on success. We've got one part of that success, whether or not, he's backed properly in January, whether or not he's kept happy in January. Not that, the manager should be saying, let's go and sign Lionel Messi, for instance, but I'm sure that the Ange has very reasonable targets that, suit them all. They're coming to Celtic. And again, Sean's came in here to agree with you, Patrick, saying he doesn't think that free players is not enough, especially if we lose players as well, because the board will not replace the numbers just like they did in the summer. If it is only to be free players, free players for Celtic in January is at a maverick, especially free players that probably slot into our first team side. But there is probably still a worry that even adding free in, Patrick, that if we do get injuries, we're probably still a bit lightweight in some positions, and without them, goalkeeping is a prime example. I think that's something that can't actually be overlooked. We've had numerous conversations and chats about, Scott Bain, Connor Hazard, Toby obviously in the squad for European games, but a position like that, if we were to lose somebody like Joe Hart, I think we'd maybe struggle.
100%. And I've actually said to my dad, he tells me that we've got hundreds of wingers. We don't have hundreds of any quality. It's the toss of a coin between Abada and Forrest on the right wing. Forrest has been injured for the majority of the games this season, and then on the left, without Jota, you've not got any confidence in Mikey Johnson. I think we're all hoping for a Ralston-esque miracle from Postecoglou there, but I think he's been fit and available for every game since Hibs in October when he started, and that was 2 months ago, and he's not really. I think he's still struggling to find form. I think he might be a bit of a confidence player because he is slowly starting to take more guys on and have a bit more success. Shooting still leaves a lot to be desired, as does his passing at times, but I'd personally like to see another winger. If you're going to move guys like Ayeti and Barkas on, yes, you probably do need another goalkeeper. Hard to say, where we get one from and whether we get a fourth or fifth player in January. I think that will be quite the challenge, but I think it's quite clear that we need more than 3 players, and I don't think it would affect our title challenge if we didn't get a fourth or fifth player in. But I think maybe when you're looking at the Europa Conference League, I genuinely think it's a massive opportunity to maybe not win it, but try and do something. Maybe put a marker down, because I think if Ange backs himself and the players back themselves, I think they can make the latter stages. I honestly do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do think they can. The team, as we said at the top of the show, we're only 6 months into this, project, if you will, in inverted commas, and commas, dear me, I'm not even plot today. But yeah, we're only a wee bit down the line with this so far. We're still to see more players come in to the side, and we're slowly building up to something hopefully very special. We've got the first piece of silverware in the cabinet. Just before we finish, we're going to probably get an announcement in an hour's time. Just to quickly get your thoughts on this, Patrick. I think you agree with me. If it's a decision of whether it's no fans or pressing the pause button, for me, it's press the pause button just now. I think we need to, I think Celtic play better with a set of supporters, and it wasn't an excuse for last season. But with fans there in the stadium, it was important, and we needed them. I'm just going to bring Lawrence back in because we can get his thoughts just as he joins us back. But just to come to you first on this, Patrick, for me it's press the pause button, postpone the fixtures until we can play them in January. If it means scrapping Scottish Cup replays, then so be it.
Yeah.
And just make sure that, for the smaller clubs as well as big clubs like Celtic and Hibs, Aberdeen, whatever else, that we get fans back in, and hopefully, by that point in January we're a bit clearer in the situation.
Yeah, I think, lower league clubs could potentially keep playing games if it's a matter of crowds. The Scottish Government can only tell the SFA and the SPFL how many people, what the maximum capacity for events is. They can't tell them when games are to go ahead. So if they tell them no fans in grounds up to 5,000 or whatever, the SPFL can say, right, we'll just not play any games then, we'll postpone them, and then it becomes a footballing matter. On last season, I think the gap would have been a bit shorter if there was, and we would have seen change sooner if there were fans in grounds, but it wasn't the reason for misery last season. But no, I mean, because games being played and when they are played is a footballing matter, I think it comes down to sporting integrity and fairness that they have to be postponed, because, we're having teams with 50,000 in Glasgow derbies, and yet we're potentially facing a situation where we've got no fans at all, and that isn't fair, in my opinion.
Lawrence, what's your thoughts on this?
Listen, how long's a lockdown going to be? How long are they going to say that there's, that there's no fans for, or the Scottish Government's going to put restrictions on? We don't know just now. I don't think there's loads of data on the Omicron variant. The word from South Africa is it's not serious. We don't have a lot here. I think this morning I saw one news briefing that said there's 11 people in hospital with it. It probably suggests it's not as serious. We're due a winter break. Is it a case of just move the winter break forward on the footballing side? If the government come out and do it, the footballing authorities will say, well, we're just going to move the winter break forward. That buys a few weeks before you need to then make the decision, doesn't it? I suppose there's a few more weeks of data then that might indicate whether this is going to be a longer term issue or a shorter term issue, depending on the severity of this variant. There's also what kind of lockdown would it be? What kind of financial support is going to be available to? Well, we were the only club not to take financial support, which would say, well, every other club was in some kind of financial trouble taking it. I'd imagine it's going to put them in, if they're not already in financial trouble, it's going to put them in more financial trouble. So, it's a matter for all the league clubs to say, well, can we afford to go without any fans in the ground or with reduced capacities? How does it affect us? I know we've all had to pay for pay-per-view, Ross County being the last one. So some of them have got other revenue streams now, but I think they'd all get hit with reduced numbers. It would hit them all. At a time when season ticket money's probably running dry. I think I've seen some clubs, trying to launch season tickets in March before. So it's perilous time if it's going to last a long time. So I think that the smart time, you can buy time just by moving the winter shutdown. If they're to say, look, there's going to be no one in the stadiums from Boxing Day forward. Say we followed what Wales said and said from Boxing Day, just move the winter shutdown, move the games. It buys the government some time to see what they can do financially. If it's going to be a longer break, it buys the footballing authorities some time to see, well, if this is a longer break, who's going to be able to finish a season? How are clubs going to be able to manage financially? Is it another case of they need to call a season early? I'm sure they haven't started a season, having had that experience with no explicit rules in place. That would just be madness if there's no explicit rules in place to govern this scenario, given that we've just been through it. But you never know with the Scottish Football authorities.
No, you don't. And again, Sky Sports will dictate, I think, at times, decision making from the SPFL. The SPFL need to be saying to Sky here, put fans forward first here. Yes, I know Sky Sports would likely want their prime box office viewing, Patrick, on the 2nd of January, but it is a case, I think Lawrence is absolutely bang on with everything he said there. Buy us more time, give us a month, see where we are in a month's time, and hopefully we can get people back into stadiums then if it's safe to do so. And I think that would be the best outcome for us, because I don't think Celtic, like every club, was any more affected by COVID. We're a big club, though. We will be affected in similar ways to other clubs financially. We've obviously got more employees, meaning that it'll cost us more to, pay them. I mean, I think a lot, it's not just 11 men in the park and the people in the stands. You've got caterers or whatever else there that you need to think about. If the financial support isn't there, it could really hit a lot of football clubs hard. And, it's just a case of waiting to see where we are, I think, in a month's time. But I think Lawrence is absolutely bang on there. Give us a month. Hopefully by that point in time, it's safe to do so. We can get fans back in and we can, go again from where we are.
Yeah, 100%. The government can't tell you, you're not allowed to operate as normal, but we're not going to give you any financial support to pay all your staff, because you've probably got thousands of employees, Celtic, or thousands of people rely on them for employment. So, it's a tricky one for the government, it's a tricky one for Celtic, but I think postponing fixtures for as long as you possibly can is probably the best way to go. I think you could probably postpone them as late as, the Scottish Cup dates on the 21st and the 22nd of January, and sort of push all them back. What you can't do is move European games. UEFA aren't going to move games because the Scottish Government. That's not going to happen. So you've got to make a decision. And, if there's not money coming in to pay clubs, because there'll be clubs that need the money far more than Celtic. But,
especially gate money, yeah. Yeah,
100%. I think on average it's something like 40% in Scotland. Celtics will be lower than that. Other clubs will be a lot higher than that. So the government have got a tricky decision in their hands if there's not money coming in for them.
Yeah, 100%. Just to finish, Patrick, I hope you have a great day. I'll see you later on for your 21st. And I think myself and on behalf of you two guys, would like to wish everyone that's tuned in today a very happy Christmas. We'll not be on until the big day's game, so I hope everybody has a very good Christmas. I hope it's peaceful and they enjoy it with their families, and they all stay safe. So, from all of us here on the Tuesday Club, we'd like to wish everyone a happy Christmas, and we'll see you next week.